your source for everything paranormal. Para-X.
From the author of the Ghost of Hollywood series and Workplace Spells comes a book for all lovers of pets. Animal Spells and Magic by Marla Brooks. Learn how to choose your next pet according to their astrological sign. Explore animal superstitions. Learn 25 magic spells for your pets and get instructions on creating your own spells. Learn who to call upon and what to use to cast these spells. Includes special chapters by Reverend Tim Shaw, Psychic to the Stars Kenny Kingston, Psychic Medium Victoria Gross, Animal Communicator Dinah Roseberry, and Shaman Willie Windwalker Gibson. This is the perfect book for all animal lovers. Animal Spells and Magic by Marla Brooks. For details on how to get your copy of this amazing new book, go to www.schifferbooks.com or check out Marla Brooks online at www.marlabrooks.com. This would make the perfect gift for the animal lover in your life. Go to www.schifferbooks.com or ask about it at your local bookstore.
Welcome to Stirring the Cauldron. Now, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
Hey, merry meet everybody, and welcome to Stirring the Cauldron here on the Para-X Radio Network. My guest tonight is Oberon Zell. Now, Oberon wears many hats and has been referred to as a Renaissance man by many. He's a transpersonal psychologist, a metaphysician, a theologian, a shaman, an author, artist, teacher, ordained priest of the Earth Mother Gaia, and he's also one of the founders of the Church of All Worlds. He's the first publisher of the Green Egg magazine and is the headmaster of the Grey School of Wizardry. Those that know him well consider him to be a true wizard in the traditional sense. And tonight we're going to talk about his latest endeavor, the Academy of Arcana. And there's a lot to talk about, so welcome, Oberon. Let's get started.
Thank you, Marla. It's good to be here.
Nice to have you back. It's been, 100 years probably.
Oh, at least.
Yeah, but you look good. You still look good.
Oh, thank you.
I was...
Anyway, I'm still alive.
Well, that's always a good thing. But, we're ageless. All of us are ageless. Age is a state of mind. So I think I'm stuck somewhere around 32. That works for me.
You're right.
Yeah.
Well, the nice thing about being a wizard is is you get to live a long time. That's sort of comes with the job description. Mm-hmm.
And all the more reason to pick that job as a calling, because that's one of the definite perk. Now, last time you were on, we talked about the Grey School of Wizardry, and this time I was just kind of nosing around Facebook, and I found a article about the Academy of Arcana, and as I read a little bit more, the Academy came about as the result of the Grey School, did it not?
Well, yes, very much. It's a funny thing. We started the Grey School just 12 years ago. We opened up our virtual doors at the 1st of August of 2004. And from the very beginning, everybody was saying, "Oh, when are we going to have a castle?" Everybody was wanting that kind of a big physical thing. And the whole idea was to have an online school that would be worldwide, and people didn't have to travel and go there, and we didn't have to worry about putting people up. But everybody still had this dream, inspired no doubt by either Hogwarts or Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, if one is a fan of the X-Men, as I was, which was not really in the offing at that time. And we built up a fabulous school, and recently, in the last year, we developed a fabulous castle type of a thing in Second Life. So we really have all that. But about a year ago, my life really had to take a drastic change, and I had to move with a lifetime's accumulation of wonderful stuff, museum and library kind of stuff that Morning Glory and I had accumulated during the 40 years we were together before her death 2 years ago. And there I was with it all, and what to do with it. And some friends and I were looking at the possibility of trying to start a community somewhere and find some place to put myself as well as all these collections. And we didn't really have much luck with any of that. We just couldn't get enough interest or enough money together to make it happen. And time was running out, and so somebody said, well, why don't we move down to Santa Cruz? And because my friends had a place down here, which is where I'm at right now, a magnificent B&B castle up on top of Santa Cruz, yeah. Wow. It's called the Quantum Keep, and you can Google it if you want to see what it's at, because it's a B&B, so it's really pretty nifty. And they said, well, and we can open up a storefront in downtown Santa Cruz, and we can create a center, a vortex for the community and stuff. And we'll have a library and a museum and a temple, a meeting space, store, all that kind of good stuff. So that's what happened, and we spent a couple of months solid working, just constantly packing and organizing and putting stuff in storage and negotiating with the owners of various properties around. We had to make trips down and look at various openings, which was quite a challenge. I mean, Santa Cruz is a very bustling place, and it's hard to find any space, but we did. We found a perfect space that would be ideal. And then we started pulling out all the stops for magic to make it happen. And boy, that was rough. We kept, they kept giving us a hard time to say, oh, well, we need your credit ratings, we need your tax returns for the past 5 years, and this and that and other thing. We went around and around and around, and we were running out of time. Well, really, completely around. This was in October now. Mm-hmm. I'd moved out of the house that we used to live in, and everything was in storage. And finally, on October 28th of this past year, they said, okay, you can have the place, and gave us the key.
Wow.
And so we opened up the Academy of Arcana, and it's over the last few months, it's been amazing to develop this. It's really quite extraordinary project. People chipped in and helped out with stuff, and we built walls and bookcases and displays, and we were able to open the storefront part for Black Friday, this Thanksgiving weekend, and then the library was all in place by about the first of the year. And on February 7th, we had our grand opening, and the Downtown Merchants Association came and did a thing, and the mayor cut the ribbon and with big scissors, and Z Budapest gave an opening workshop to a full house. There we were, off and running.
And I was reading an article about the opening, and it said that your vision basically was to have a meeting place, a gathering place, a vortex, an educational center, a learning facility, a destination point, and a place that people will come not just to go through a store and shop. And I think you've kind of fulfilled a lot of that to this point in a short period of time. And it and also kind of like, in a sense, is the Grey School's physical campus if people want to go there and go to the library and look things up, right?
Exactly. It's our first physical facility. So it's chartered under the Grey School, and we have classes and workshops. Right now, we're having a workshop at this very moment in astrology that's happening down at the Academy. I'm not there at the moment. I'm up at the Keep talking to you, but it's going. It's just fabulous when it's going. People love it. People come in and they just say how much they like the atmosphere. We've got we put out numbers of special exhibits of different stuff and different themed things for the store. When the new Star Wars movie came out, we set up a whole Star Wars collectible thingy. We had angels, we had fairies, we had dragons, dinosaurs. Right now, there's a big the store's special exhibit is all Star Trek. So we keep doing that. We give people more reasons to come back, and we're carrying consignment items from various people in addition to my own books and jewelry and statues and figurines and various collectibles. And that's the store. The library is amazing. People come in and we have a reading room, of course, with the library, so people come in and study. And we have a big screen TV and a huge number of videos, and we show DVDs, and we show movie nights, magical movie nights. And it's great. You know, it's one of these things, if you're going to dream, you might as well dream big. I've never really been good at dreaming small. I always get overambitious. Oh, we'll have this, and then we'll have that, and then we'll add one of these here. You know? So
and that's the way it should be. Yeah, that's the way it should be.
I hope so, because certainly it's the way I am. It's the way my life operates.
We were just talking about the Grey School, and there are people who probably don't know what the Grey School is. So this may be a good time to kind of give a quick explanation and the website and the class, you know, how people can enroll if they want to, because it's open to anybody, anywhere in the world, practically. Well, yeah,
that's right.
Not even practically,
really. No, it
so
is worldwide. In fact, we've been getting a lot of students from China in particular. In fact, just a couple of months ago, we had a Chinese TV crew coming in who, with the Chinese Travel Channel, is what it is. They came over to America, and they visited 3 places to show on their show, which will be aired in September in China, and one of them was our Academy.
Wow.
In the entire country, the entire United States, we counted as one of the 3 places to have on the show. And so that's pretty neat, and we've had a lot of interest in many other countries: Australia, China, Japan, the British Isles, France, and other countries. Well, we've got 50 countries. We have students in 50 countries around the world. It's really quite amazing. The nice thing about being online is that people can be anywhere and at any time, and there is. But the idea of the school is really broad. It's what we're trying to do is bring the wisdom of the ages into the modern times for people. It's a whole different concept than the regular standard educational system, because we're harkening back to the mystery schools in ancient times, where all the knowledge and wisdom was all kind of packaged as esoteric education. And it was a big deal to go to that, which is the kind of mystique that J.K. Rowling captured in her idea of Hogwarts, which I thought was really pretty nifty. So imagine if Hogwarts was a real school and it taught real magic. That's kind of what we got going on. We have 16 departments, and each of them can be the basis for majors and minors. It's a 7-level program with the equivalent to 7 years of apprenticeship, which would carry you in a mundane level from middle school through high school.
Right.
And upon graduation, you get a certificate of journeyman wizard, and we're preparing the higher levels now, the college levels. We're working on that right now. It's been constantly evolving. We've got about 480 classes currently available. Yeah. And about 20 teachers. It's really quite a phenomenon. I highly recommend people check it out. The website is greyschool.com. That's Grey, greyschool.com. And you can check out the class listings and all kinds of other stuff on it.
Yeah, and that's, I think, sorry to interrupt, but I mean, that's the amazing thing. I just want people to know that there is such a wide variety of classes. I mean, it's like something for everybody, no matter what your path is, no matter what your interests are. It's an amazingly huge curriculum. So that's one reason to just go check it out, because if you think there's something in there that, you know, that your interest is something that nobody else has, you'll find it at the Grey School.
Thank you. I think that's certainly true, because we've had over the years very many teachers with often very specialized interests, and they've developed whole classes in these often fairly obscure areas, as well as much broader ones, of course, that interest everybody. But it's an amazing array of classes. I'm teaching a few myself. They kind of dragged me back in to teach again. Good. The initial curriculum was developed from my books, The Grimoire for the Apprentice Wizard, and the sequel to that, The Companion for the Apprentice Wizard. Those are the first textbooks. And so I kind of designed the classes and the basic curriculum. Well, I pretty much designed everything, actually. But then with that foundation, you know, more people have come in and they've added more to it and developed and changed it. Right now we're working on some major overhaul, which we do every now and then, to incorporate a classical education curriculum into the whole plan, with a trivium at the first three levels, the basic courses that encompass what is defined as grammar and logic and rhetoric, which isn't as dry as it sounds, because pretty much any subject can be grouped in that. The grammar part of it is the foundations, the language, the basics of the thing. The logic part is the way the pieces all fit together. And the rhetoric is the practical use in how you explain it and how you work with it and use it. And so by designing these into the curriculum, we're making sure that people who get through those levels are really well-versed in the subjects. And then the next four levels are the quadrivium, which gets into more complex subject matter. But these go back to ancient times, and it's kind of exciting to see this all being adapted for a modern audience in teachings.
Well, those of us who revere the ancestors and the past, this is kind of the perfect thing. I mean, it's the history that we need to know, that a lot of neo-pagans don't care about because they just don't look back. But my way of thinking is, if you don't look back, you don't have a future, because that's where we came from and that's where we'll end up, you know? So I think that's great. Now, one of the other perks... sorry, what? You broke up.
No, I just said thank you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. It just kind of broke up a little, and I thought, but one of the perks of enrolling in the Grey School that has to do with the Academy is that access to the library and the museum at the Academy is free for enrolled students. So, you know, I mean, one hand is shaking the other. It's a good thing, and you know, not everybody lives in California. I just want to mention that Santa Cruz, for those who don't know, is in Northern California. And, but people travel out here. People can come by, you know. I mean, if anybody knows about the Academy, and if anybody's probably within 100 to 200 miles, they're going to want to drive up and see it. So, you know, if you're enrolled in the classes in the school, then, you know, there's some perks when you get here, right? That's the way to look at it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have memberships in the Academy, of course, so people join up, and quite a few people have done that. And that gives, you know, free access to all the facilities. And you know, we're still putting pieces together. We hope eventually to be able to get a lending library part of the program for members only, of course. It will allow them to check out some of the books. We'll probably start off with the ones we don't mind losing terribly. Some of them, I'm sure, will never be checked out, but we're working on that. It's a continually evolving process, and I'm happy about that. Everything I've done in my life, every project I've tried to do, from the Church of All Worlds to the Grey School to the Academy and many things in between, has been designed to be an evolving process and not a static one. And so I'm proud to see it continuing.
That's what's making it right, because it as long as it keeps growing, it gets better and better. I've got a question from the chat room. She's asking, can students who graduate still access the library?
Oh, yes, certainly. Graduates are definitely welcome to access the library. And I imagine that a lot of our graduates are going to be wanting to continue into the higher levels as well. The next level will be the 4-year or 4 level, because years isn't really quite applied exactly. Because you can go at your own pace. Some people can go through several years in just a few months if they really apply themselves to it. But the material, it encompasses that much time frame. Mm-hmm. But the next level is we're going to be reshuffling the whole languaging around it. So the Grey School will be the overall thing, and it will have within it the Arcane Academy, which will be the lower levels, and paired up with the Academy of Arcana. And then the next level, the college level for journeymen and magisters, will be the Invisible College, and we've already got quite a lot done with that. And then, if we move on from that, the next level vision would be for graduates of that, which would be the Unseen University, to give a little tip of the hat to Terry Pratchett. Mm. So we have plans that will continue on into the future, and, if things go the way they're beginning to look, we may have more facilities around the country. We're talking about trying to develop a franchise idea for the Academy so that people could open up centers in other cities.
Wow, that's very interesting. Got another question from the chat room. She said she wants to know, what about chaos magic and its role in modern magic? She said, is it a valid path instead of more traditional schools?
Well, it's certainly a valid path. Chaos magic is becoming a significant force, and it encompasses several levels. Of course, the ceremonial magic and the dark arts, both it touches upon, with a certain amount of, alchemy and mathemagics thrown in too. There's a lot of different specializations and focus, and chaos magic is one of these that spans several different departments. But we definitely have it, and considerable interest in it seems to be these days.
Wow. Now, chaos magic, I know a little bit about it, but is it a new tradition, or does it go back, years and years and years and years? Do you know?
Well, I think it's fairly new. As it's being defined, it's fairly new. It's more than any other tradition. It specifically encompasses the quantum physics, which to a lot of us in the magical field is one of the most exciting developments going on. Is the realization that the laws of quantum physics, as they're being developed and articulated, are really exactly the same as the traditional laws of magic. So, and chaos magic addresses that kind of stuff, the stuff that touches into the scientific realm of the universe and cosmology. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had, I don't know if he's still on the network or not, but we had a chaos magician have a show. And it, to me, was very confusing in a sense because there was just so many aspects of it, but it was still interesting at the same time. But then, there are so many different paths. There's so many different... magic, wouldn't you say, is kind of... There probably are as many ways to practice magic as there are magicians that are practicing it, right? Everybody borrows or takes from something else or comes up with their own, that kind of thing, right?
Well, magic certainly lends itself to a lot of synthesis, and most people do that. Most practitioners draw from numbers of different areas. There are fairly distinct realms, much like in any university's program of studies, and we've identified 16 of these, and they're all color-coded. And some of them are really obvious, like, green magic is wart cunning, herbalism and such, and yellow is divination, and that's a discrete field of itself. Red is alchemy, and blue is healing, and brown is beast mastery. And we see these reflected in popular places too, like in The Lord of the Rings, where, it's Gandalf the Grey, and Grey is lore, so Gandalf the Grey is a lore master. And white is ceremonial magic. and black is sorcery and the dark arts and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's really quite interesting when you approach magic as a spectrum instead of just the old black or white thing that people used to have. It's really not about that at all. In fact, really that particular spectrum, as in black and white, as in good and evil,
mm-hmm.
doesn't really come up in the broader scheme of things,
Right.
It's all these rainbow colors.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think a lot of people that aren't practitioners or involved in any way just kind of know from books and movies and Hollywood there is black magic and there is white magic and there's nothing in between. You got the good guys and bad guys, and there you go. But it's so much deeper than that. I mean, if people would study at least, the basic history of magic, they would open their eyes a lot, and we might not be fighting this uphill battle that we've been fighting for the last few hundred years, right?
Oh, I know. Well, that's part of what we're trying to do, is to educate a broader spectrum of people. One of the things that makes the Grey School unique, for example, is that we are not teaching magic as part of any particular religious tradition. We're teaching wisdom and magic. And, a wizard is not a priest or a religious practitioner per se. Being a wizard is like being a professor or mm-hmm. a doctor or a philosopher or a scientist, And that's irrespective of whatever religion it may be, and it certainly infuses it. But the nice thing about the Grey School is that we have students and teachers from a wide range of religions and cultures, and they all get along with each other really well because their teachings go deeper. Just as in my own personal travels, I've been all over the world, and I've had the privilege of being able to hang out and visit with shamans of many indigenous cultures, from mm-hmm. Siberian shamans to Australian Aboriginal shamans to Peruvian, Caribbean, Native American, Hawaiian. It goes on and on and on. Mm-hmm. And, the funny thing about it, the thing that's delightful, is that within minutes we're just having a fine old time. We all understand the same stuff. We're just laughing and joking and totally right on. And we all have common foundations. The things that we consider the roots of paganism are universal. Everybody in the world understands about Mother Earth. That's a given, and Mother Nature, the seasons, the cycles, the wheel of the year, the turnings of the heavens. The stuff is universal stuff, and it's wonderful to know that it transcends the trappings of any particular culture or religious tradition. Mm-hmm. So our second graduate was a Sufi Muslim, for example. Mm-hmm. No problem. There's a rich tradition of wizardry and alchemy. Well, in fact, the very word alchemy is Arabic. Mm-hmm. It's from the Middle East. Mm-hmm. So right now we're developing a major whole set of Chinese magics to address the fact that we're getting all these Chinese students.
Wow.
So that's going to be an exciting new dimension. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. You were talking about the word wizard, and there's always the great debate, right? I mean, wizard in the positive sense and wizard in the negative sense, as in the oath breaker, the one that gets kicked out of the coven, So, and I know
you warlock.
Or warlock, that's true. And
wizard is
right.
different than a warlock.
Yeah, you're right. And people get confused between wizards and warlocks also, in that sense. I don't know. People, okay, here's what I get the questions all the time. How are druids different than wizards? How are warlocks different than druids? Because druids were always kind of assumed to be, well, maybe in their mind, I'm not trying to be mean, but the more elite group, maybe the older group. So people just get very confused about the 3 W's. I guess it would be wizard, witch, and warlock kind of thing. And, 4 W's, wizard, yeah.
Well, I can address that to start off with the druids thing. The druids were the priesthood of the Celtic tradition in ancient times. Primarily in Ireland was the major core of that. And that was there was 3 stages. There was the Ovates, Bards, and Druids. And at each of these stages there was expectations. It was much like what we have in the the Grey School, we have the tradition of apprentices, journeymen, and masters, which is the guild system. And they had something very similar to that in the Celtic traditions. And the Druids were the highest level. They were the ones with the most training and education, but they had to have already qualified for all the other stages before that. So they were the priesthood. The bards were their whole job being a bard was to learn the lore, the stories, the songs, the poetry, and to get where they could eventually start composing their own. And that transition between learning the stuff that had been and then being able to create new stuff and teach it was the transition between the the bard and the druid, and it's a transition between the journeyman and the master. In the system that we work with, the guild system, the apprentice's job is to learn, to study at the feet of the master in the studio or the classroom or wherever it is, And when they've acquired enough information and have learned their thing, and they can produce a masterwork to show that they've learned their stuff, then they're sent out of the studio or the academy or wherever it is into the world to practice, to serve with what they've known. And that's where they become the journeyman. They go on a journey. And then eventually people come to them and say, wow, you know all this stuff, and I want to learn what you know. Will you teach me? And that transition is when the journeyman becomes a master and opens up their own school and starts teaching. And that's kind of that tradition. Well, there was the same thing with the Druids. So in a sense, we could also consider the Druids to have been the wizards of their culture as well. Pretty much every culture, every people has people they recognize as the wise ones. The word philosopher means lover of wisdom, for example, and wizardry simply means wisdom. That's what the word literally means.
Right.
And founders of all the great religions, whether it's Zarathustra or Buddha or Jesus or Moses, all these people are also regarded as great wizards, often by people who are not necessarily part of their tradition, because the people within the tradition prefer to regard them as prophets and such. But to others, they're all wizards. And so we like that, it transcends it. In popular stories and myths and legends and popular fiction, the wizards are almost always portrayed as benevolent teachers and mentors. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Gandalf, Merlin, Dumbledore, all these characters like that. They're very positive characters. When you get evil characters who use magic, they're generally referred to as sorcerers, which conveys a different thing, because wizardry is about wisdom and sorcery is about power. And depending on where the focus is, this is something Don Juan talks about in the Carlos Castaneda's books. He talks about the difference between a man of knowledge and a man of power. And he's really talking about the difference between being a wizard or a sorcerer. But that doesn't mean that a wizard shouldn't know sorcery, because, knowledge and wisdom without power is impotent. But power without wisdom is dangerous. So, there has to be, these things all have to be in balance. And a good part of the wisdom teachings is about the balance.
Yeah, no, I agree. I want to get back a little bit to the academy again, because there are different areas that we kind of touched on. But I was reading that the largest area of the academy is the goddess Curiosa, which is kind of a non-denominational goddess temple and then kind of a meeting, workshop, class space kind of thing. And it's exhibiting Morning Glory's collection of over 360 goddess photo figurines from around the world throughout history. I mean, it's amazing. I want to hear a little bit more about that.
Oh, that's an amazing thing. That really is. Among the many, many, many things that Morning Glory and I shared in our time together is a fascination with the imagery of goddesses, particularly as reflected in the votive figurines that go all the way back to the caves, when the very earliest sculptures that we have from 30,000 years ago are these little female figurines that are faceless and are all done in a style that indicates that they are archetypal images rather than than representations of individuals. You know, they all have the same pose and stuff. And it's a type, it's an archetype. And it's the archetype of the mother of all mothers is really what we're talking about here. So there's a very maternal aspect to that. So we've, you know, and right on all the way through, there's countless images that are excavated in archaeological excavations and film museums of little small figurines of goddesses, or as Maria Gabudis referred to them, matrikas, little mothers, which this is, I think, a charming term. Westerners who first encountered them referred to them as Venuses, which was sort of an odd term because they certainly don't fit the category of the sex image that we associate with Venus. They're much more maternal figures, motherly. But still, they're universal. And so we got really fascinated by those. And we came upon books that had lots of images, like Eric Newman's The Great Mother, for example, has a lot of them. And we started wanting to have some. So I kind of began the process by trying to sculpt representations from the pictures in the books. And I got really good at that. And over the years, I don't know how many times I tried to do the Willendorf figure until I finally got it right. Then I, checked out images. Finally, I traveled. We went all over the world and visited museums and spent lots of time studying all the little goddess figurines in all the museums everywhere. And slowly built up a collection, ones that we were able to purchase, ones that people, gave to us from very obscure sources, and ones that we made ourselves as museum replicas. So over 40 years, it became quite a collection, and now it's amazing. They span 30,000 years in every culture in the world. All kinds of images, all kinds of styles, and it's astonishing. And it's divinity. It's the pure essence of divinity is manifested through the mother line, the lineage of heritage that carries us back to the dawn of time. It's powerful to look at these figures and to hold them in your hand and to feel that. I think for the Morning Glory, the most powerful thing was the first time that she took a handful of our first goddesses out to a workshop, and a blind woman came to the thing, and she was able to hand her the figures of these images that she had heard about, but the pictures in the books weren't really going to be very helpful to her. And she was able to hold in her hands these exact replicas of images that were thousands of years old, and it was just such a powerful experience. So that became Morning Glory's dedication, is to travel around and do workshops and to show these to people and have them be a living museum where they would handle the pieces. And she would do weekend goddess workshops on a different theme, like goddesses of love or motherhood or dark goddesses, goddesses of wisdom, goddesses of battle. Every imaginable subject of human endeavor had its goddesses. They were the patrons or matrons of that. So it's quite a powerful collection, and here it is now, available for anybody to come down and look, and they can ask questions and pull them out and handle these pieces and look at them and connect with them and resonate, and it's an amazing thing. We've had scholars, we've had universities, all kinds of people have come to see these.
And also, I mean, there are, you have large collections of magical tools, handwritten books of shadows, devotional items, altar setups. I mean, it goes on and on and on. It's amazing.
It does. Well, we have 2 lifetimes of devotion and dedication to people who fundamentally, at our deepest heart, Morning Glory and I were librarians and museum curators. I think in some former life, we were Hypatia of Alexandria and Theon of the Great Library and people like that. We've always had that kind of a passion, and over the time, we reinforced each other by collecting these things, and that was always our presents to each other. For any occasion for present giving, it would be books or goddess images or magical tools or devices. Our crafts, what we made, with our hands, were magical tools and items and stuff. I don't know how many wands we've got and handcrafted tools and athames And of course, the Books of Shadows, we've had numbers of initiations, whereupon part of that was passing on to us the particular traditions, Books of Shadows. But we've also had friends, many friends, too many friends over the years who have died and have passed on to us their tools and their Books of Shadows. And because they felt that, well, we would take care of them and we're honoring them. We have stuff from some remarkable people, which we're setting up some personal exhibits that will honor the particular people who had these things. Ray Buckland's doing the same thing. He's putting together a new edition of the legendary Buckland Museum of Witchcraft and Magic.
Oh, wow.
So I sent him some of Morning Glory's artifacts to go into that. He sent us some of his personal stuff to go into ours.
Very nice.
And that's really neat and very, very moving and very wonderful.
And I think that's the neat thing about us in general, or pagans in general, that, you know, there isn't any competition. There isn't much one-upsmanship. I mean, it's just, people they laugh and say, well, how can everything be so harmonious? How can everybody get along so well? I don't know that there's an answer to it, but it's just a sense that we have, you know. Don't be judgmental. What? Yeah.
Well, it wasn't always that way, you know. That's the interesting thing about it. That's why it gives me a little chuckle. I remember back in the 60s and 70s, there was, you know, famous legendary witch wars going on all over the place. Where you have, you know, this town wasn't big enough for 2 high priestesses, you know, and they had to duke it out, you know, magical battles and all kinds of weird stuff. And and a lot of people watched that and said, you know, this is really stupid. You know, we don't want to do that. That's just not a fun game. Let's not play it, you know. And gradually the next generation came up and just refused to play those kind of games. But but a number of things have made a difference. That kind of stuff only can happen when people are in isolation. And really, I've known covens where the high priestess forbade the members of her group to attend events, festivals, or rituals, or anything that other people were doing, or you know, just wanted to keep them all in there. It's like the Catholic Church having the forbidden books, but you know, that just doesn't really work very well with the kind of people who are drawn to this. We're all just sort of naturally rebellious. If you tell us no, that we're not supposed to go study something or go here or go there, well, that'll be the first place we'll go.
Right.
That's just how we are. You know, we're just not a bunch of sheep. So I think all that stuff worked its way out. But the things that helped, I know that my own publication of Green Egg really helped a lot, because we had an uncensored forum where everybody could write in their letters, and we published them word for word, including all the typos. And people got to see what worked and what didn't work, and people who were being real jerks sort of mooned themselves in front of everybody, and everybody just kind of moved away from them on the Group W bench. And then, but the biggest thing that has made the difference, I think, has been the festival movement. Yeah. When various people started putting on festivals, like Selena Fox with her pagan spirit gatherings, and now there are, I don't even have any idea how many. I think there may be hundreds of festivals going on. It's probably not a weekend anywhere in the country that there's not some festival going on. If it's not a big one, it'll be something small, like a local pagan pride event or something. And these bring people together. And people meet each other, and they share each other's music, and they sit around the campfire, and they sing the songs and chants, and recognize the common things, and then people meet up and hook up, and, you know, before long, you know, you've got a lot of cross-pollination, shall we say, cross-fertilization going on. And that's worked out really nicely. And nobody wants to make war on anybody anymore. It's beautiful, really, to see. People get all excited. Oh, we're bringing so-and-so in for this festival. I myself have been honored to be invited to hundreds of festivals over the years. I mean, this year was the 35th Starwood, and I've been to about 30 of those, just for one particular festival every year. And it's happening everywhere, all over the world. I've been to Australia to pagan festivals. I've been to pagan festivals in England. You know, I'm hearing about ones in all kinds of other countries, saying, well, when you got enough money, bring me down, because I'd love to be there, you know?
Experience how it is. So how does And so how does somebody enroll in the academy? And if people don't live nearby, are there online features that members can access?
Well, not so much with the academy yet, although I think we're going to be moving into that more and more as we can. We're starting to get some online purchasing for items from the store that would be, in which we have multiples of, like, books and jewelry and statues and things like that. We're kind of combining that with the school store from the Grey School, which is Magic Alley, and we're waiting for the shipment of all the inventory from the school, from the person who'd been handling it before, to the store in Santa Cruz, where we'll be having the sales for the school also going out of the store, and that'll be nice. People can join. Certainly, we really welcome people who want to support it and join up with memberships. We've had supporting lifetime memberships as well as just regular, ordinary, yearly memberships, which has been very nice because it helps to support it. Right now, that's the biggest struggle. It's expensive to have a physical place. And our big struggle right now is financially supporting it, really. So we're getting ready to put out fundraising appeals for people who feel that something like this needs to be preserved, that these collections, cannot be allowed to pass into oblivion. It's been this thing I've felt for personal responsibility. After Morning Glory's death, I found that I'm the sole custodian of this lifetime legacy of pagan stuff, not just the statues, the books, the magical implements, the things we're talking about, and so we're getting people who want to support that just because that needs to be supported, like any museum or library would be supported. And we're working on grant applications, and hopefully we'll get some of those. We got a nice letter of interest from the Smithsonian, which was very sweet. Yeah. They're not wanting to send our stuff to them, but they said, "Wow, this is great stuff." If you decide that you can't keep it, let us know.
Yeah. Wow.
You recognize the value. Another thing that's really exciting right now, just started this past weekend, is that we are having interest in some TV producers who want to do a reality show based on the Academy. Like some of the ones that are already out there that are based on interesting people or places, And the particular company that's doing this is Crosscut Films, and they have a really good record of excellent productions that are doing really well. They're probably one of the most famous ones is one called Little People, Big World. It's all about the life of little people. And they've got one called Fire and Iron that's blacksmithing and numbers of others. There are dozens, actually, of shows that they do, and they're wanting to do one that the working title is The Wonderful World of Oz, which is nice and charming. But they spent all this last weekend here filming for a pilot presentation to the networks, what they call a sizzle reel that will be just a few minutes of it, like a trailer to try to get them to buy the show. But they loved the whole thing. They were very wonderful people, very exciting. We had a great old time. Turned out we knew lots of the same people, which is always fun to know.
Yeah.
And one of the guys who was involved in this, Eric Street, remembers when he was a kid how the excitement of meeting a real live unicorn, which was and so now he gets to grow up and work on a TV show on what was his childhood hero experience. So he's quite delighted with that.
Oh, wow. That's very cool. You might want to explain the unicorn to people who may not know.
Oh, yeah, that's right. People have forgotten. That's one of the interesting things about some of these things is that no matter how amazing a thing can be, if it touches on the realms of myth and magic, it will be forgotten. It's astonishing. And then people think, oh, that was never real. That was just a myth. And the unicorns were one of those kind of things. And in the 70s, Morning Glory and I, in our researches and travels, discovered the secret of the unicorn. We were doing research for a book on mythical beasties we wanted to write. And we realized that we had the information that would make us possible to bring unicorns back into the world. Real, genuine unicorns, just as they had once existed. And that's what we did. In the entire 80s, that's what we did was raise unicorns and brought them out all over the world. It was huge. We did every single Renaissance fair in North America for years.
Yeah.
With several different animals, and our whole family was out there. I would have one show, Morning Glory would be at another show, our daughter and son would be at different ones. It was quite mad for a while. And eventually we got an exhibition agreement with the Ringling Brothers Circus, and they carried it on for another few years and made it world famous. And it was immense. We were in every newspaper, TV show, magazines. It was huge. Yeah. And a few years later, the world had completely forgotten all about it.
People are fickle. They need to be reminded of good things because they're always looking for, digging around for bad things to complain about. But, once in a while, you got to remember the good things.
You do, and I appreciate your reminding us of that too, Marla, because there's always awful stuff going on that we can focus on and go, oh, no, ain't it awful? We do need to have these things that remind us of the positive, of hope, that last little thing that was left in the box after Pandora closed the lid.
Yep. There you go. Now, I also want to mention that currently there is an online store, we mentioned it briefly before, that carries your books, including, as you said, the Grimoire of the Apprentice Wizard and the Companion for the Apprentice Wizard, which I have both of them and love them. There's also a Wizard's Bestiary, which I definitely have to get. I just noticed that one. That's on my list now. And
that was a book we were researching when we discovered the unicorn secrets. And it's in there. The whole unicorn story is in that book.
Yep, that's on my list. And there's also a book, The Wizard and the Witch, which is, the blurb says, it's a stranger-than-fiction story of two soulmates who rejected the status quo and embraced higher ideals and had a lot of fun while they were doing it. So basically, it's yours and Morning Glory's story. Yes.
It is. It's our life story, and 18 pages of color photos to go with it. It's that's the whole story. That's our life right there. It's they didn't have room to put all of it in one book, so they ended up having to cut about half of it out. So it's pretty tight, and people like it a lot. And perhaps someday the expanded full version will be able to come out too. So there's more. If you like that much, there's always more. But that's okay. It gives me something to talk about when I tell stories. I can tell lots of stories that aren't even in the book,
See, there you go.
So much.
And also in the online store, there's magical books, figurines, jewelry, crafts made by various artists, and so there's a lot there. If you're not in the area, just get online. And why don't we give out some of these websites for the Academy and the School of Wizardry, and so people can kind of nose around and get interested.
Great. Well, please do. They're both pretty easy. The Academy website is academyofarcana.com. So that's pretty straightforward. And the Grey School website is grayschool.com, which is also pretty straightforward. There's my magazine, greeneggmagazine.com, which is also continues online after 50 years or so. Almost 50 years. It started in 1968. It's now the oldest and longest-running pagan publication. We were sad to see Circle finally cease publishing after 160-something issues. But I think the current issue of Green Egg is something like 174 or something like that. So it continues to go strong. It's online now, which it's always staying on the leading edge of stuff and being quite good. Green Egg Magazine. What else we got going on?
Well,
our main distributor for all of my products is Devera Publications. That's Devera, and I think it's devera.com, so you can check that out.
And also, if people go to the website for the store, they can find calendar of events, which shows weekly events, special events, and workshops. So people can get over there. And also, there's a newsletter on the website that people can subscribe to if they just go there. So there's a lot to offer.
And another thing is that we are right now putting together a board of advisors of some really remarkable people. I don't think that it's quite up yet, but within the next few days, if people go there, they'll see our really amazing board of advisors that we've got, quite remarkable people who are kind of our backup and folks helping us towards getting funding and that kind of stuff. So we've got some really good people all behind the project. It's really just, all of it is just very exciting. It's kind of a strange and amazing thing for me to go through such a devastating loss in my life as Morning Glory's passing had been. I'm still just deeply shattered, and then at the same time, it's the phoenix thing, burning down to the ground, burning down to the utter ashes, total devastation, and yet rising again from the ashes in some new blaze of glory to go forward. And that's what she would have wanted and expected. We did that many times in our own lives together. We moved. We had whole lives that were invested in a place and in a community, and then for some reason or another, we had to start all over again. And we just kind of got to adopt the phoenix as our totem edible. Again, doing it again.
Well, that's a perfect one. And speaking of Morning Glory, before we run out of time, we can go a couple minutes over because the next show isn't going to be on tonight. But I think you might want to talk a little bit about the Morning Glory Zell Foundation, what it is, and where people can find out more about it.
Oh, yes, please. Thank you. Well, about 6 months or so after she died, some friends set up the Morning Glory Zell Memorial Foundation to be a fundraising thing to support the continuation and maintenance of the goddess collection primarily. That was its major objective. And with the monies raised from that, we've cataloged all of the hundreds of goddesses and in a really deep an index that we want to make available and probably try to do a printed version, but at least it's now there with descriptions and photos and numbers of all the pieces. And so that's a continuing project to keep money coming in for that. It's the Morning Glory Zell Memorial Foundation. It's a ridiculously long name, but that helps to support the work. And we do appreciate across the board with all of this stuff. Really, what we need now more than anything is the support of the larger community. If a lot of people think that what we're trying to do here is worthwhile and that this legacy should be preserved for future generations, as well as for present ones, please send money. We need it. We have to do this stuff.
Yeah.
But don't just do that. Come and enjoy it. It's some great stuff here, And there's the Church of All Worlds, of course, is going strong. And we still have our land, and we're still having events and festivals, and that's caw.org, caw.org. So people might want to check that out. Church of All Worlds is the oldest incorporated pagan church in existence. It was founded in 1962. Still going strong after all these years.
Where is the physical church?
Too. The physical facility is up in Mendocino County, California. The headquarters offices are at the Academy of Arcana. They have a nice little office space there, so several things have their offices there. And of course, we have different groups all around the world that have the local events and such too. Nests, we call them, and branches and so on. It's big in Australia. That's been one of the interesting things. Church of All Worlds really caught on in Australia back in the 90s, actually. So that's all going strong. And if people like to see what our idea of a nice pagan church might look like, well, check it out.
And you've got your own website as well. And if I'm not mistaken, that's easy too, oberonzell.com. Was that it?
That's right. Okay. Yeah, all of you is pretty easy. Nothing really obscure there,
I know, don't you?
There it is.
Some people have, like 50 words. This is their website. I keep it. When I got mine, somebody said, well, what do you want to call it? Let's think of something. I go, marlabrooks.com. Thank you. Just, make it easy. Because otherwise people get tired of typing in all the, all the lingo. Well, I'm so glad.
There's just no point in overthinking the plumbing.
Oh, but that's what people do. They like to overthink. It's good brain exercise, and it's also very confounding and confusing, and that's why people get grouchy, right? Right.
Yes, right.
Yes. Well, I want to thank you for stopping by tonight. I really wish I was a little closer to Santa Cruz. I'd be there checking things out a lot, but maybe one of these days I'll be up north and we'll definitely stop by. But there's a lot of stuff that we talked about tonight that can get in people's heads. So please, guys, go to the websites, find out about the store, find out about the school, enroll in the school, major classes there. Like I said, something for everybody. And just, keep in touch, because this is who we are and this is what we do. And we get things out there and we all support each other. So it's always a good thing to do. So check it out. And if you forgot all the websites, the podcast will be up in a couple of days. Re-listen to it, get excited about it again, and write down all the web addresses. So anyway, but thank you, Oberon. I really appreciate you coming in tonight and sharing the good stuff. And if people even if they Google Academy of Arcana, you'll get taken to the website immediately, or any of the other places too. So it's easy. You're not obscure, and it's worthwhile for everybody to join in and figure it out and learn about it too. And
thank you. Thank you for having me on and giving me a chance to talk about this stuff.
Well, as I think I said before, if there's anything that comes up that you want to talk about, just give me a call and we'll book you in, because you're a wonderful guest and people know you well and people want to hear more of you. So it's nice that you were able to come in and do it. And you've got the gold key to open the door anytime you want.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. Well, and keep your eyes out for the TV series,
Yeah.
Be really, really amazing.
I know. Well, keep us posted.
Excited when they were up here.
I know. I mean, okay. It's something a little bit different and something kind of wonderful. All right. And guys, thank you for joining us tonight. And now we're going to toddle off. So until next time, everybody, blessed be and merry meet again. Good night.
This has been another edition of Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks. Be sure to tune in next week at this same time for another great guest and more cauldron stirring. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without explicit permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2014. Moonlight Hall by Kevin MacLeod, licensed through Incompetech.com.